One of the people I was working with on retreat this weekend at the Brilliant Rebels retreat asked me what I meant exactly when I taught about leaving the body, how we leave our bodies. And even as I'm saying it, and I say, you leave your body, I bet that somewhere inside of you, you can identify with this feeling and maybe even identify that you've been having it your whole life. Okay, so let's start with what I mean. Number one, in trauma, this is called dissociating. Basically, the idea there is that the experience that you're having is so intense in a negative way that it's really quite beautiful that our little psyche or our psyche actually allows us to leave our body. Because in the moment, what our body is experiencing is too intense. And that can be because of sexual abuse, physical abuse, situations of intense aggression or confusion. You've heard people say, I just froze, right? And what happens is that our psyche, because it's so beautiful and caring, allows us to leave the situation. We're really not leaving our body, but something happens where it feels like we're leaving our body. And so that is called disassociation, okay? And you or me or all of us might do it all the time. Okay, that's number one. Number two, I'm an empath and I teach a lot about being an empath, and I work with people who are empaths. And empaths are people who don't just feel sympathy and aren't just empathetic. They actually feel in their bodies what other people are feeling. They literally feel it. So let's say someone on the bus is crying, or a baby is crying, they will literally take on what I call those feeling forms or those thought forms. So you can imagine what empaths go through in groups of people or in a family situation that feels chaotic, or when a parent or both parents are fighting or suffering constantly. These are really intense situations for an empath to be in because they will literally take on the feelings that are surrounding them. That includes the news, by the way. It includes many, many situations. I myself am an empath, and I teach a lot about being an empath. Okay, so the third category is actually the traumatized empath. And the traumatized empath is someone who not only is an empath and so will take on all of these emotions, but if they are in abusive situations or situations that have felt, like I said, chaotic or in a ton of suffering, the empath becomes a wounded empath or a traumatized empath. So it's like a double whammy. And I might be speaking to you directly if you recognize yourself as one. I have a lot of information on this, but right now I'm just going to go through things very quickly. Okay, I'm following a little. So what happens to the wounded or the traumatized empath, or someone who's been traumatized in general? So I like to call it shape shifting. When you're in a group of people, or maybe when you're in a relationship, or maybe when you go back to your family of origin, you begin to shape shift. Basically, you begin to contort or accommodate, or chameleon is another good word, into the environment around you. And you don't even know that you're doing it. You literally chameleon into the environment around you. You just become like the other people. You basically accommodate, you over accommodate in those situations. And there's a sensation that you're not even aware of losing yourself. Okay. Some people could call it people pleasing, right? That's another reaction to trauma. You know how we talk about fight, flee, freeze, and we're going to add fawn to that. Some people fawn when they're in trauma. And what that means is that they begin to people please in order to harmonize the environment. And the empath will do that automatically. Empaths are hardwired to harmonize environments. Okay. And especially if they're a wounded empath, they will do it and constantly leave their body, i.e., leave themselves, in order to make the environment more peaceful, more harmonious. They just want people to get along and be happy with each other. So there's a lot of leaving the body and accommodating. What happens is you'll recognize, now that you know this, that being around groups or being around your family of origin, or being with a partner who's demanding, even a partner who's not, you end up feeling exhausted or extremely drained. Extremely drained. And by the way, you're also quite attractive to people, and you're attractive to groups, and you're attractive to dominant people. Why? Because you're accommodating. It's really nice to be around someone who's easy, accommodating, will try and create peace wherever they go, who's like a happiness maker. Okay? So people will flock to you to get those goodies, as I say, to get the part of you that knows how to shapeshift, chameleon, contort, accommodate. Okay, so there's so many thoughts that come to my mind when I'm speaking about this, especially when it comes to empaths. But I'll stay with the leaving your body part. Okay, overall, if you do not know this about yourself, the sensation is that you don't know who you are. So the overarching sensation is that you actually don't know who you are. Because every time you're around others, you chameleon. You become them. You become the group. You become what the group needs. So it's very easy. Okay, so now I'm just going to give you 4 things you can do. Okay? 4 things you can do. Number 1, know that it's happening. After this video, you're going to start noticing when it's happening. Know that it's happening. Just start to realize, when I go into a group, when I go to that happy hour, when I'm with my family of origin, when I'm with my partner, when I'm with my kids, I do that all the time, I leave my body. Okay? Number 2, breathe. Okay. Immediately anchor back into the body. Breathe. Once you know you're doing it, basically what I like to say is come home to the self. Come home. The other thing that I do all the time, I was at a retreat all weekend and I found myself doing this all the time, and I taught about it, is I actually anchor myself in with an actual physical gesture. Mine is this. So let's say I'm in a group and I start to leave my body. I breathe and I come back. So you can do all sorts of things. You can maybe put your hand on your chest and just come back. Just remind your body to come back, to come home to you. Okay? Number 3, that's called anchoring in. So number 1 is know that you're doing it. Number 2, breathe. Number 3, anchor in with a gesture, with a physical gesture. And number 4, the people who've worked with me know about the dynamic cleanup questions. You can go inside and ask yourself the dynamic meditation cleanup questions. What am I trying to control? How am I feeling unsafe? How am I wanting approval? Those of you who work with me, and it's all over, I have posts all over my channel about those questions. They are questions that you can ask on the go. They are portable, they are practical, and they immediately center you, immediately. And they're quick. They're a list of questions. And does all of that. It anchors you in, and it provides you with a meditation that's on the go. Okay? So that's what I mean about leaving your body. And please hit me up with some questions. I am happy to talk about this. And I'm also going to do a video on why these are gifts of the empaths when we're not wounded or traumatized, or when we're healed and in recovery. These are actual gifts that we have, but more on that later. Okay, I hope this is helpful.